someone used my food orders to learn my routine in my apartment building, and I didn't realize how much access I was giving away until he started showing up when I wasn't expecting him to even be working that day. Like he wasn't just assigned the delivery, but already positioned for it before I even placed the order. I knew something was off the third time my food arrived faster than it should have. Not just fast, but too fast, like it had already been nearby before I even placed the order. And when I checked the app, it showed the same driver again, same name, same car, same exact profile picture, and I remember thinking it was coincidence at first, just someone working my area a lot, but then I noticed the delivery times lining up with my schedule. Not random, not normal, but almost like he knew when I was home before I even ordered, like he was already in range, waiting for it to happen. The first real proof hit me when I opened my door and saw him already halfway up the stairs before the app even notified me he had arrived, like he wasn't waiting for directions or confirmation, like he already knew exactly where my unit was without checking anything. And when I asked him how he found it so fast, he just pointed to the number on my receipt taped to the bag and said, "You always order around this time," then smiled in a way that didn't match the situation and walked off before I could respond. Like that information wasn't new to him. That stuck with me longer than it should have, not because of what he said, but because of how casually he said it, like it wasn't something he just noticed, but something he had been building over time, something he had tracked without needing to write it down. And when I went back through my order history, I realized I had ordered from the same place, same time range, at least twice a week for the past month, and he had delivered almost half of those orders, enough to build a pattern without me realizing I was repeating it. That's when it shifted from coincidence to pattern, and once you see a pattern like that, you can't unsee it, because now every detail starts connecting in ways you didn't think about before, like how my building doesn't have a secure lobby, just a front door that sometimes doesn't fully latch, and how the directory listing shows unit numbers tied to last names, and how I always selected leave at door, meaning he had clear visibility of my exact unit every single time, with no interruption, no supervision, no barrier. I tried to break it, change the restaurant, change the time, and even used a different delivery app, but somehow the same driver showed up again, and that's when it stopped feeling like chance completely, because the odds of that happening across different platforms don't line up, which meant he wasn't just getting assigned the orders. He was either positioning himself to receive them or already staying close enough to claim them the moment they appeared. When I opened the door that night, he didn't say anything at first, just stood there, holding the bag longer than needed, like he expected me to say something, and when I didn't, he leaned slightly forward and said, "You're home earlier today." And that was the moment everything snapped into place, because I hadn't ordered at my usual time. I had gotten home early from work, and somehow he knew that wasn't my normal routine, which meant he wasn't just tracking orders anymore, he was tracking deviations. That wasn't observation anymore, that was behavior tracking. And I closed the door without responding, but my hands didn't feel steady after that, because now I had to think about what else he could see, what else he could learn from something as simple as food deliveries. And once you start asking those questions, the answers don't make you feel safer. They make you realize how exposed you already are without ever noticing it. I stopped ordering for a few days after that, thinking distance would break the pattern, but it didn't because the next escalation didn't come through the app, it came through my environment, and I noticed it when I walked past the mail area and saw one of my old delivery receipts sitting on top of the trash bin, not crumpled, not thrown away properly, but flattened out like someone had taken it back out and looked at it again, like it still had value after I was done with it. That receipt had my unit number, partial name, and timestamp on it, and suddenly it clicked that this wasn't just about showing up for deliveries. This was about collecting information, building a routine, stacking details over time until he didn't need the app anymore to know where I was or when I'd be there, because the system was already giving him everything he needed in pieces. I tested it again, but this time I had a friend over to my place while I stayed quiet inside with the lights off, and when the driver arrived, it was him again, same car, same timing, and instead of just dropping the food and leaving, he stood there longer than normal, looking at the door like he was expecting something different, like he was trying to confirm whether I was inside or not. When no one answered immediately, he knocked twice, then stepped back and waited longer than any normal driver would, not impatient, not confused, just waiting, like he was giving me time to reveal something. And that's when it shifted again, because now he wasn't just observing patterns. He was actively testing them in real time. The next day, I noticed something I hadn't paid attention to before. Small scratches around the door handle that weren't there before. Not forced damage, but repeated contact, like something brushing against it over time. And the welcome mat slightly moved off center, like someone had stood there longer than necessary more than once. And once I saw it, I couldn't ignore it, because it matched the behavior I was already seeing. The next time I saw him, it wasn't during a delivery at all. It was in the parking lot, standing near the side entrance, like he was waiting for someone. And when I walked past, he didn't approach, but he looked directly at me and said, "You haven't ordered in a while," like it was casual. But it wasn't. It was confirmation that he had noticed the change, that he had adapted to the lack of orders by physically showing up to the environment instead of waiting for the app. That's when the situation expanded, because now it wasn't just tied to me, it was tied to the building itself. And if he could stand there without being questioned, without being stopped, then the system wasn't just leaking information, it was allowing access, and that access didn't belong to just one person. A few days later, I overheard someone in the hallway asking another resident about a delivery that hadn't arrived yet, and the description matched him. Same car, same tone, same way of asking indirect questions, not about names, but about units, schedules, habits. That's when it stopped being personal and started being a pattern affecting more than just me. I reported it to the delivery app, but all they did was say they'd look into it, which didn't change the fact that he already knew where I lived, already knew my routine, and already had enough exposure to operate without the platform. And that's when the real consequence started to hit. Not just fear, but disruption, because now I had to change how I lived. I started leaving at different times, parking in different spots, avoiding predictable routines, but the cost of that wasn't small. It meant longer commutes, missed timing at work, constant awareness of who was around me, checking behind me when I entered the building, holding doors closed instead of letting them swing open. And even then, it didn't feel like control. It felt like reacting too late. The final confirmation came when one of my neighbors mentioned seeing a delivery driver asking which unit I was in, not by name, but by describing me, and that's when it expanded beyond me completely, because now it wasn't just one person being tracked, it was a system that allowed anyone with repeated access to build a profile on multiple residents without needing permission or oversight. That's when I broke my lease early, lost my deposit, paid moving costs I didn't plan for, and changed buildings completely. But even after I left, I couldn't ignore what I had seen because the system that exposed me didn't change. The delivery flow didn't change. The building access didn't change, and someone else was still there, still repeating the same patterns I didn't recognize until it was too late. The last time I passed that building, I saw a delivery bag sitting outside a door with the receipt still attached, unit number visible, timestamp clear, and it didn't look like a problem until you understood what that information actually gives someone over time. Because it's not just a meal, it's access, it's routine, it's a pattern waiting to be used. And the part that stays with me is realizing that nothing about what happened was forced, nothing was hacked, nothing was broken into. It was all given away slowly through normal behavior, normal systems, normal habits that don't feel dangerous until someone decides to use them differently. And by the time you notice, they already know more about your life than they should. If you're still ordering the same way every night, leaving your door drop exposed and trusting that no one's paying attention, you're doing exactly what I was doing before it turned into a pattern someone else could use. And that's why the urban warning exists, to show you how everyday systems turn into access when the wrong person decides to watch.